The Zephyrian observation ship, Whisper of Stars, hung in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter, its bioluminescent hull pulsing with nervous energy. Commander Zara 9 pressed her four-fingered hand against the viewing portal, watching the third planet from the sun with growing concern. "Status report," she commanded, her voice creating ripples of color across her translucent skin. "The primitive species continues their activities," replied Navigator Keth 7, his own skin flickering deep purple with distress. "Despite our warnings." Zara 9's eyes, all six of them, blinked in sequence. For 3 Earth years, the Galactic Council had been sending subtle messages to humanity. Crop circles appeared overnight in perfect mathematical patterns. Radio telescopes picked up brief, structured signals from empty space. Strange lights danced in the skies above major cities. Each message carried the same meaning. Stop. Danger. Ahead. Turn back. "Show me the latest readings," Zara 9 said. The ship's central display materialized before them, showing Earth in painful detail. Sprawling cities consumed forests. Oceans turned acidic. The atmosphere grew thick with industrial waste. But what truly terrified the Zephyrians wasn't the environmental destruction. It was what the humans were building. There, Keth 7 pointed at a cluster of facilities across Earth's surface. 73 locations now, all matching the configuration. Zara 9's skin turned pale silver, the color of deep fear among her people. The humans, in their blind rush toward progress, were constructing something that would doom not just their world, but dozens of others. They were building quantum tunneling devices, and they had no idea what lived in the spaces between dimensions. "Have they responded to any of our warnings?" Zara 9 asked, though she already knew the answer. "The crop circles become tourist attractions. They call our radio signals natural phenomena. The skylights are dismissed as weather balloons or military exercises." Zara 9 closed all 6 eyes. The humans weren't just ignoring the warnings, they were treating them as entertainment. "Commander," Communications Officer Vel 3 suddenly spoke up, her young voice trembling. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's different from their usual broadcasts. Show me." The display shifted to show a human facility in what they called Nevada. Deep underground, in a laboratory that looked more like a cathedral, dozens of humans in white coats worked frantically around a massive circular structure. The quantum tunnel was nearly complete. But that wasn't what made Vel 3's skin flash bright orange with shock. Standing at the center of the facility was a human female with determined eyes and graying hair. She was speaking directly into a camera, and somehow, impossibly, her words were being broadcast on frequencies that only the Galactic Council used. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez," the human said. "If anyone out there is listening, we know you've been trying to contact us. We got your message, all of them, and we're choosing to ignore them." Zara 9's crew fell silent. Even the ship's bioluminescent walls dimmed. "We've detected your observation ships," Dr. Vasquez continued. "We've decoded your mathematical sequences. We know you're warning us about something. But here's what you need to understand about humans. We don't run from danger, we run toward it." She gestured to the massive device behind her. "In 72 hours, we'll activate our first stable quantum tunnel. Not because we don't know the risks, but because we do. Whatever's waiting in the spaces between dimensions, we're going to meet it head-on." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody on the Zephyrian ship spoke. Then Keth 7 whispered, "They're insane." "No," Zara 9 said quietly, her skin cycling through colors of confusion and something else, something that might have been admiration. "They're human." She turned to her crew. "Send an emergency transmission to the Galactic Council, Priority Alpha. Tell them the humans didn't just ignore our warnings, they sent us a counter-message." "What kind of message?" Vel 3 asked. Zara 9 looked back at Earth, where the lights of human civilization twinkled like defiant stars. "They're telling us to watch and learn." Chapter 2. The Council convenes. The Galactic Council chamber floated in the void between 3 dying stars. its crystalline structure reflecting the distant light like a cosmic prism. Representatives from 47 species had gathered for an emergency session, the first called in over 2 millennia. High Counselor Thane Prime of the Ethereal Collective materialized at the center of the chamber, his energy form crackling with ancient authority. "We are here to discuss the human problem," he announced, his voice resonating through quantum frequencies that every species could understand. Ambassador Crix of the Silicon Hegemony stood first, his metallic body gleaming. "The solution is simple. We glass their planet before they activate the device. One focused beam from orbit and the threat is eliminated." Angry ripples of light passed through the assembled representatives. The Zephyrian delegation flickered in distress while the peaceful tree lords swayed their massive branches in what could only be disapproval. "Genocide is not a solution," spoke Elder Moss Singer of the Tree Lords, her voice like wind through ancient forests. "These humans have done nothing but exist. They're about to tear holes in reality itself." Crix's voice screeched like grinding metal. "Do you know what lives in the dimensional void? Do you remember the screaming dark that consumed the Vega system?" A collective shudder passed through the chamber. Everyone remembered. The screaming dark, entities of pure nightmare that fed on dimensional energy. They had been contained in their void spaces for millions of years, kept at bay by the galaxy's agreement to never puncture the barriers between dimensions. "The humans don't know," offered Counselor Zur II of the Aquatic Federation, her voice bubbling through her breathing apparatus. "Their science is still primitive. They think they're building a transportation device." Thane Prime's energy form pulsed. "Which is why we sent warnings, subtle ones as the galactic accords require for pre-contact species. The humans have chosen to ignore them." "Have they?" Commander Zara 9 spoke from the Zephyrian section. She had been granted special permission to address the council. "Or have they chosen something else entirely?" The chamber fell silent. "Explain," Thane Prime commanded. Zara 9's holographic image solidified as she stood. "The humans didn't just ignore our warnings. They sent us a response. They're telling us they know the risks and choose to face them anyway." "Madness," hissed Ambassador Vex of the Serpent Dominion. "Perhaps," Zara 9 continued. "But consider this. What if they succeed?" "Succeed? At what?" Crix demanded. "Opening a doorway for cosmic horrors? Succeeding at being the first species in galactic history to look into the void and not blink?" Zara 9's image flickered with nervous energy. "Every civilization that's reached this technological threshold has either heeded our warnings or been destroyed by what they unleashed. None have ever simply charged ahead." Elder Moss Singer's branches rustled with something that might have been curiosity. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that maybe that's why the screaming dark keeps winning. Every species runs. Every species hides. Every species lets fear make their choices." Zara 9 paused. "What if the humans don't?" Thane Prime's energy form expanded, filling more of the chamber. "You're proposing we let them proceed? Risk the annihilation of entire star systems?" "I'm proposing we watch," Zara 9 said. "The humans seem to think they have something we don't. Maybe it's worth finding out what that is." The debate that followed raged for hours. Some species demanded immediate intervention, others argued for complete withdrawal. But in the end, it was the voice of the smallest delegation that swayed the vote. Speaker Chirp 9 of the insectoid swarm rarely addressed the full council. Her people preferred to observe and calculate rather than argue. But when she spoke, her mathematical certainty commanded respect. "Probability analysis complete," she said in her clicking, precise voice. "Human success rate in their current course of action, 12%. Human survival rate if we intervene, 3%. Galactic survival rate if they succeed, 94%. Galactic survival rate if they fail, 17%. The chamber erupted in confusion. "Explain that calculation," Thane Prime demanded. "Simple mathematics," Chirp 9 replied. "Every time we've encountered the screaming dark, we've retreated. Every time we've sealed them away, they've grown stronger. We've been fighting a losing war for 1,000,000 years. by choosing not to fight at all. She paused, her compound eyes reflecting the chamber's light like jewels. The humans might lose. But if they win, they'll be the first to actually push back, and if they win, we all win. The vote was close. 24 species voted to intervene, 23 voted to observe. Thane Prime's energy form dimmed with the weight of decision. By a single vote, we watch. But we watch ready to act. If the humans fail, if they unleash the screaming dark upon the galaxy, we will have a unified response prepared. As the council dispersed, representatives returning to their home systems, Commander Zara 9 remained behind. Second thoughts? Thane Prime asked. Not second thoughts, Zara 9 replied. Just wondering what Dr. Elena Vasquez is thinking right now. Perhaps, Thane Prime said. It's better we don't know. But they were about to find out. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck above the Dimensional Research Facility, watching her team make final preparations for humanity's greatest gamble. 47 hours until activation. Around her, the world's most brilliant scientists worked with the focused intensity of people who knew they were making history or ending it. Second thoughts, Elena. Dr. James Chen joined her at the viewing window. As head of theoretical physics, he'd helped design the quantum tunneling device. He was also one of the few people who fully understood what they were attempting. Third and fourth thoughts, Elena admitted, but not changing thoughts. Below them, the tunnel's containment ring hummed with barely restrained energy. The device stood 30 meters tall and 50 meters across, a ring of exotic matter and quantum processors that had taken 5 years and the combined resources of 12 nations to build. The aliens are still out there, Dr. Sarah Martinez called from the communication station. As the facility's xenobiologist, a field that hadn't existed 10 years ago, she'd been tracking the alien observation ships. 3 more just arrived. They're not even trying to hide anymore. Elena nodded. They'd detected the first alien ship 2 years ago, shortly after the crop circles started appearing with mathematical precision. It had taken months to realize the circles weren't random art. They were warnings. Mathematical sequences that spelled out danger in the universal language of physics. The radio signals had been next. Brief bursts of structured data that could only be artificial. Then the lights in the sky, perfectly choreographed displays that violated every law of atmospheric physics, each message clearer than the last. Don't do this. Dr. Vasquez, a new voice called. Colonel Rebecca Torres, the facility's military liaison, approached with a tablet in hand. I've got the latest satellite imagery. The alien ships aren't just observing anymore. They're positioning. Elena looked at the tactical display. 17. Ships now surrounded Earth in a loose sphere, all maintaining perfect distance from each other. Military precision. They're preparing for something, Colonel Torres continued, either to help us or stop us. Any communication attempts since our broadcast, Elena asked Dr. Martinez. Nothing, but the ships are definitely listening. Every transmission we make gets exactly 17 microsecond delays in response. 1 from each ship. They're coordinating. Dr. Chen leaned against the railing. You know, Elena, there's still time to abort. We could shut down the project, claim technical difficulties, wait for official first contact. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Below them, her team continued their work. Humanity's best and brightest, risking everything on her decision. James, she said finally, what do you think scared them? What do you mean? The aliens. They've mastered interstellar travel, quantum, communication, probably technologies we can't even imagine, but they're terrified of our little tunnel. She gestured to the device below. What could possibly frighten beings that advanced? Dr. Chen considered this. Something they've encountered before. Something that made them decide certain experiments are too dangerous to attempt. Exactly. Elena's voice grew stronger. Which means there really is something in the dimensional void, something that's kept the galaxy's most advanced civilizations from exploring an entire realm of physics. And you want to poke it with a stick, Dr. Martinez called over, not without admiration. I want to understand it, Elena corrected. Fear is the enemy of knowledge, Sarah. Every great discovery in human history came from someone willing to step into the unknown despite the risks. Colonel Torres looked up from her tactical display. Ma'am, we're getting some interesting data from our deep space monitors. The alien ships aren't just watching us, they're running continuous scans of something else. Show me. The main display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of local space. Earth sat at the center, surrounded by the alien ships. But beyond them, barely detectable, were other signatures. What am I looking at? Elena asked. We're not sure, Torres admitted. The signatures don't match anything in our databases. They're not ships, not asteroids, not any kind of normal matter we can identify. Dr. Chen stepped closer to the display. How long have they been there? That's the thing. They just appeared, right after we sent our broadcast to the aliens. Elena stared at the display, her mind racing. They're not alien ships, are they? No, ma'am. Based on the energy signatures, they're something else entirely. A chill ran down Elena's spine. The aliens hadn't just been warning humanity about something in the dimensional void. They'd been warning them about something that could cross into normal space, something that was already starting to arrive. How long until we can activate the tunnel? She asked. 47 hours for full power, Dr. Chen replied. But we could manage a brief activation in 12 hours if we had to. Elena looked around at her team, brilliant minds who'd followed her into the unknown, trusting her judgment even when she wasn't sure she trusted it herself. New plan, she announced. We're moving up the timeline. Elena, Dr. Chen warned. A rushed activation could destabilize the entire containment system. And waiting might not be an option. Elena pointed to the display. Whatever's coming, it's not waiting for our schedule. Colonel Torres was already on her radio, calling for increased security around the facility. Dr. Martinez was frantically adjusting communication arrays to monitor the approaching signatures. But it was Dr. Chen who asked the question everyone was thinking. Elena, what if the aliens were right? What if some doors shouldn't be opened? Elena looked down at the tunnel one more time. Humanity's greatest achievement, or its final mistake. Then we'll be the first species to find out what's really on the other side, she said. And if we don't survive, at least the galaxy will know what they're really dealing with. The countdown began. 11 hours, 53 minutes until humanity opened a door that had been sealed for millions of years. Outside, 17 alien ships watched and waited. And in the deep void between dimensions, something ancient and hungry began to stir. Chapter 4. The Awakening, 11 hours, 27 minutes until activation. Commander Zara 9 watched her sensor displays with growing alarm. The mysterious signatures that had appeared after the human broadcast were no longer mysterious. Her ship's quantum analyzers had finally identified them. Void wraiths, she whispered, her skin cycling through every color of terror her species. Possessed, confirmed, Navigator Keth 7 replied, his voice barely a trembling whisper. 17 signatures matching historical records from the Vega incident. The Void Wraiths weren't the screaming dark themselves, they were scouts. Entities that could partially manifest in normal space when dimensional barriers grew thin. Their presence meant only one thing. Something was about to tear a hole between realities. Emergency transmission to the Galactic Council, Zara 9 ordered. Priority Alpha Prime. Tell them the humans have already destabilized the barriers. The Wraiths are manifesting. Commander, Communications Officer Vel 3 called out, her young voice cracking with fear. We're receiving transmissions from the other observation ships. They're all detecting the same signatures. And from Earth? The humans know something's happening. Their deep space monitors are tracking the Wraiths, but they don't understand what they're seeing. Zara 9 closed her eyes. The Galactic Council's vote to observe rather than intervene had been based on the assumption that they'd have time to act if things went wrong. But the Void Wraith's early arrival meant the dimensional barriers were already failing. New orders, she announced. Prepare for emergency intervention protocols. Without Council authorization? Keth 7 asked. The Council authorized us to act if the humans unleashed the Screaming Dark. The Wraith's presence means that process has already begun. Deep beneath Nevada, Dr. Elena Vasquez was having the same realization. The energy signatures are moving, Dr. Martinez reported. Whatever they are, they're getting closer to Earth. How much closer? Elena asked. Lunar orbit. And accelerating. Elena turned to Dr. Chen. Can we get a visual? Working on it. Chen's fingers flew over his console. Redirecting the Hubble replacement. There. The main display flickered, then showed a view of space near the moon. At first there was nothing unusual. Then the image enhancement kicked in, and Elena's blood turned to ice. 17 shapes hung in the void, but they weren't ships or asteroids or anything that belonged in normal space. They were tears in reality itself, jagged wounds through which something indescribably wrong was trying to. Our early warning system, Elena said grimly. The aliens weren't just warning us about something in the dimensional void. They were warning us about something that comes out when the barriers get weak. Colonel Torres stepped up beside them. Ma'am, I'm getting reports from observatories worldwide. These tears, they're showing up on every deep space monitor on the planet, which means everyone knows something's happening, Elena realized. How long before this goes public? It already has. Torres gestured to her communication array. Social medias, exploding with amateur telescope footage. The news networks will pick it up within the hour. Elena made a decision that would echo through history. Open channels to the alien ships, she ordered. Elena, Dr. Chen warned, we don't know their intentions. We know they're scared of the same thing we should be scared of, Elena replied. That makes them allies. Dr. Martinez worked frantically at her console. I'm broadcasting on every frequency the alien ships have used. Universal mathematical sequences, our location, and a simple message. We need to talk. The response came immediately. The main display shifted to show the interior of an alien ship. Elena found herself face to face with Commander Zara 9, whose translucent skin was cycling through colors Elena somehow understood meant fear and determination. Dr. Vasquez, Zara 9 said, her voice translated by technology. Elena couldn't even imagine. You have made a grave mistake. I know, Elena replied. But it's too late to unmake it. Those tears in space, they appeared because of our tunnel project, didn't they? The dimensional barriers were already weakening from your preliminary tests. Your quantum experiments have been creating microfractures for months. Elena felt her world shift. Our tests caused this? Not caused. Accelerated. Zara 9's skin flickered to a color that might have meant urgency. The barriers weaken naturally over cosmic time. But your quantum tunneling technology exploits the same physics the void wraiths use to manifest. The void wraiths, those are the things trying to come through the tears? Scouts for something far worse. Dr. Vasquez, you must abort your tunnel activation. The dimensional breach your device would create will give the screaming dark a permanent gateway into normal space. Elena looked around at her team. Fear was written on every face, but she also saw something else. Determination. Commander Zara 9. Elena said, how many species have encountered this threat before? 43 confirmed over the past million years. And how did they handle it? Zara 9's silence was answer enough. They ran, Elena said. They sealed the barriers, hid from the void, and pretended the problem was solved. It was the only viable strategy. No, Elena said firmly. It was the only strategy anyone was brave enough to try. But it's not working, is it? The barriers are weakening anyway. The screaming dark is getting stronger, and eventually they're going to break through on their own. Zara 9's skin cycled through colors Elena had never seen before. What are you, proposing? Elena looked at her team. At the tunnel humming with power below them, at the tears in space visible on her monitors. I'm proposing we stop running. The tunnel is going to create a dimensional breach whether we want it to or not. The barriers are already failing. But maybe, instead of giving the screaming dark a gateway into our reality, we use that gateway to go into theirs. The alien commander stared at her in what Elena was beginning to recognize as shocked disbelief. You want to invade the dimensional void? I want to understand it. Fear comes from the unknown, Commander. Every monster becomes less frightening once you understand what it really is. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Elena, that's insane. We'd be sending people into a realm where these entities have existed for millions of years. Not people, Elena corrected. Volunteers. People who understand the risks and choose to take them anyway. She turned back to Zara 9. Commander, I need to know. Has anyone ever actually survived contact with the Screaming Dark? Survived contact? A few. Survived to report back? None. But some have survived the initial encounter? Yes, but then they can be fought. They can be understood. They're not gods or forces of nature. They're entities that exist in physical space and interact with physical reality. Elena paused, the full scope of her idea crystallizing. Commander, how many ships do you have in this system? 17 observation vessels. And do any of them have the firepower to destroy Earth if this goes wrong? Zara 9's silence was answer enough. Elena nodded. Then we have a failsafe. If the dimensional breach gets out of control, if the Screaming Dark starts pouring through, you can end the threat by ending us, Dr. Vasquez. But if we succeed, if we actually make contact with these entities and find a way to communicate or defeat them, then the galaxy finally has a real solution instead of just temporary fixes. Elena looked at her team one more time, then back at the alien commander. We're going to activate the tunnel in 10 hours. We're going through to the other side, and we're going to find out what the Screaming Dark really wants. The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone with her team and the weight of humanity's future. Outside, 17 alien ships prepared for the worst. And in the dimensional void, something that had waited 1,000,000 years for this moment began to laugh. 10 hours until humanity opened the door between worlds. Epilogue. The message sent. 3 hours after activation, Commander Zara 9 stared at her sensor displays in stunned silence. The impossible was happening. The quantum tunnel had opened exactly as Dr. Vasquez predicted. A perfect dimensional breach 50 meters across, connecting normal space to the void realm that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. And then 12 humans had walked through it. Dr. Elena Vasquez had led them personally, a team of scientists, soldiers and volunteers who had stepped into the unknown armed with nothing but human curiosity and stubborn determination. The first hour had been chaos. The void wraiths had swarmed the tunnel entrance, trying to force their way into normal space. The Screaming Dark had followed, entities of pure nightmare that had sent half of Zara 9's crew into catatonic terror just from their sensor readings. But then something unprecedented happened. The humans fought back, not with overwhelming firepower or advanced technology, but with something the galaxy had never tried. They refused to be afraid. Commander, Vel 3 called out, her voice filled with wonder instead of terror for the first time in days. We're receiving a transmission from inside the void. From the humans? Yes, ma'am. Dr. Vasquez is alive. The main display activated, showing Elena Vasquez standing in what appeared to be a vast, impossible space filled with shifting geometries and light that hurt to look at directly. But she was alive. More than that, she was smiling. Commander Zara 9, she said. I have a message for the Galactic Council. Dr. Vasquez, what's your status? Are you under attack? We were, but we're not anymore. It turns out the Screaming Dark aren't actually trying to invade our dimension. Zara 9's skin went completely colorless. Explain. They're trying to escape. From something else. Something that's been hunting them through the void for millions of years. The reason they've been trying to break through dimensional barriers is because they're refugees. The implications hit Zara 9 like a physical blow. Refugees from what? Elena's image flickered as something moved behind her. But instead of the writhing horrors Zara 9 expected, she saw organized structures, almost like cities. From loneliness, Elena said simply. Commander, the Screaming Dark aren't monsters. They're the last survivors of civilizations that tried to hide in the void. They've been trying to communicate with us for millions of years, but fear made That impossible? That's impossible, is it? Your people sent us warnings because you were afraid. They sent us nightmares because they were afraid. Fear created a feedback loop that made communication impossible. Elena gestured to something off-screen. But humans have something the galaxy apparently lacks. We're too stubborn to stay scared forever. Once we got past the initial terror, we realized the screaming dark weren't attacking us. They were trying to show us their history. The display shifted to show vast murals carved into the impossible walls of the void realm. Images of civilizations rising and falling, of species fleeing into the dimensional gaps to escape some greater threat of isolation and desperation spanning millions of years. Commander, Elena continued, I need you to send a message to the Galactic Council. The dimensional barriers aren't protection, they're a prison. And the thing they're protecting us from isn't the entities in the void. Then what? Dear God, Dr. Martinez breathed. What are those things? Elena's expression grew grave. Something that destroyed most of the galaxy once before. Something the void refugees have been trying to warn us about. The screaming dark aren't the threat, they're the survivors of the last time this threat appeared. Zara 9 felt her worldview crumbling. What kind of threat? We're still learning. The void entity's memories are fragmented, traumatized. But from what we can piece together, there's something out there that feeds on civilizations, not individuals but entire species' potential for growth and discovery. Elena paused, her image flickering as dimensional energies swirled around her. It's been waiting for the galaxy to recover from the last culling, and according to the void refugees, it's almost time for it to return. The transmission stabilized, showing Elena surrounded by what Zara 9 now realized weren't monsters but survivors. Entities that had sacrificed their original forms to preserve their consciousness in the void. The good news, Elena continued, is that the void entities want to help us prepare. They've been trying to get our attention for millions of years because they need allies. The barriers between dimensions weren't keeping them out. They were keeping us apart. Dr. Vasquez, Zara 9 managed, are you saying the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known was fear itself? I'm saying fear prevented us from finding allies when we needed them most, but that's changing now. Elena stepped aside, revealing one of the void entities, no longer a writhing nightmare, but a being of geometric beauty communicating through patterns of light. Commander, I'd like you to meet Keeper of Memories, the last librarian of the Centauri Collective. They've been waiting 3 million years to share their knowledge with someone brave enough to listen. The entity pulsed with colors that somehow conveyed welcome, relief, and hope. The message we're sending to the galaxy is simple, Elena concluded. Stop running from the unknown. Start running toward it, because the universe is much stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined, but also much more dangerous than we're prepared for. The transmission ended, leaving Zara 9 staring at displays that showed the impossible. Humans and void entities working together, dimensional barriers being converted from walls into doorways, and the beginning of an alliance that would reshape galactic civilization. She opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council. Priority Alpha Prime message to all member species, she began. The humans didn't just ignore our warnings. They sent us the message we needed to hear. What message? Came Thane Prime's immediate response. Zara 9 looked at Earth, where humans were already preparing to welcome refugees from the dimensional void, and smiled the first genuine smile her species had managed in 1,000,000 years. They're telling us to stop being afraid of the dark, because that's where our friends have been hiding. The galaxy would never be the same. And for the first time in cosmic ages, that was exactly what it needed. But in the deep void between galaxies, something ancient and patient felt the dimensional barriers weakening and began its journey toward the light. The real test was still coming. End.